Hey there, and welcome to the Eurogamer Newscast. And this week we're talking about PlayStation VR2 and its price point. Joining me this week, we have a very special guest. It's Ian Higton of Eurogamer's video team.
Hi, I thought you were going to say Ed then. He's definitely cooler than me. No, welcome.
Ed has to put up with me far too often. He's very
true.
Special, but he's not a guest. And yeah, Ed is here as well. As is Ishraq.
Hello.
And I'm here too, amazingly.
Hi,
Ian,
Tom.
thank you so much for joining us. I know
You're
you're
welcome.
super busy at the moment with this and God of War and who knows what else over on the video side of things. But we are talking about PlayStation VR, and VR is absolutely your bag. You are, I think, the person I know who is most into it, the biggest advocate for it. And I would love to include your views on the news that came out this week from Sony on the price point, because I think that has generated so much conversation. Like our story from yesterday on Eurogamer has over 300 comments. People have, like, genuinely have a range of opinions. From wow, that's really expensive, to oh my god, that's so expensive, I would need to remortgage. I'm not going to buy one.
Yeah, it is a
it's not
shame
cheap.
that that price has come at a time when there is a lot of financial worry for the majority of the world. It is a bit of a shocker for everyone's wallets, I think.
Yeah, we talked a little while ago, didn't we, about how much we thought it might cost, and we were talking around the ballpark of the console, but I really didn't think it was going to go higher.
Yeah, it is. I thought it would be around the price of the console, mainly because this one has the Sense controllers packaged in with it. When you bought the original PSVR, you could just get the headset only without Move controllers, because a lot of the original PSVR games could be played with the DualShock and the light bar. The Sense controllers with the PlayStation VR2, from what I've played with, feel like really top quality controllers. They rival the best controllers that Oculus and whatever can do. So I was fully expecting there to be a high price. I would say that not having a game bundled in with the main box is a bit like, well, a massive disappointment, because then you've got to spend an extra 40 quid on the Horizon Call of the Mountain one, which drives the price up even more. But I've had a go on it, and it is a very high quality piece of kit, rivaling some of the best PC VR stuff. So I probably would have been more shocked if it had come in at a very low price rather than the price it has done.
Then let's just say, first of all, what you get in the pack for your money. And for £530, which is $550, which is $600 if you're paying in euros, you get the PSVR2 headset, its 2 controllers, and a pair of stereo headphones, which there don't seem to be any photos of, so I'm imagining they're quite crap.
It's a weird one, the stereo headphones, because I don't know where they're going to plug in. I didn't see a headset jack when I played. When I played, Sony plonked a pair of 3D Pulse headset on me, which are wireless. So, I was wearing those, and it sounded great. I don't know what the sound quality is going to be like with a pair of stereo headphones, or what they look like, but I never saw them when I tried it. So that's your guess is as good as mine for that.
And you make the really good point that there is no game packed in, which means even if you're paying £530, you can't do anything with it. So of course you're going to spend more than £530. Call of the Mountain?
I don't know. Maybe there'll be a surprise little demo disc like the original PlayStation VR 1 had. It surprises me that they haven't said that on the box. But there's got to be that. It's got to launch with some demos or something. That would be a bit silly to launch it with no games. Surely, I don't know. It does worry me a bit.
They should have said it.
Yeah.
So yes, there is this bundle box which allows you to actually use the thing that you've spent £530 on, and that's £570, and that gets you Horizon Call of the Mountain, and that's $600 or €650. The price goes up. And also, we should just say, if you want the PSVR 2's controller charging dock, and so you don't take up all of the USB ports on your PS5 console, that's another £40 extra. So all together, that's £610 to play a game on the thing that you bought and also charge it without messing up.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're buying a PlayStation 5 as well at the same time, you're over £1,000, and you almost could buy a PC and a VR headset with that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ian, because the number is £1,090 for a PS5, the PSVR2, a game to actually play all this stuff with, and the controller dock. £1,090.
Yes, that's expensive indeed.
How does that compare to some of the other VR options out there?
The newly announced Quest Pro, Meta Quest Pro, or whatever the hell Meta's calling it, is that's over £1,000 on its own just for a standalone headset. It's top of the line kind of VR, but I don't know. That is way overpriced, I reckon, for what it is. I think that they're aiming that one to be more for developers and businesses, I think, than consumer VR like Sony. In terms of like other little headsets, like standalone ones, like the Meta Quest 2 or the newly released Pico 4, they come in at about £400, I think. So, or maybe 300, around that ballpark. And they're decent, and they give you wire-free VR gaming, but I actually don't really rate them too much because the performance isn't great and the visuals aren't brilliant. I prefer my PC VR gaming. I prefer to be wired in so I can experience like really high quality visuals. I've seen a lot of people complaining that the PSVR2 is wired in, but if it wasn't wired in, you would get some kind of potato graphic-y style games. Whereas because it's got a very long, thin wire, and because of that, you're going to be able to experience some phenomenal looking games. Horizon Call of the Mountain looks incredible. Like, it really made me like have to pick my jaw up off the floor when I was playing it. The kind of difference in graphical style from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2. So, you know, maybe the price is there for a bit of extra quality compared to the standalone headsets that Meta and Pico are doing, but you could probably get a second-hand Oculus Rift S for a PC for about £300 and have a much bigger library and experience high-quality visual games on your PC for way less than the PSVR 2.
Ed and Ishraq, I want to bring you in because I think the price is the price, and we can compare it with other headsets. But I think some of the surprise at the price is that the expectation was this was going to be a more affordable entry into the VR market, a more accessible market for people who don't want to mess around with a high-end PC. I'm someone that doesn't play on PC games, PCs really. I'm a console gamer. I just enjoy that ease. You guys have PlayStations. Is this something that you would consider purchasing based on the lineup of games that are there at the moment to play on it?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Done. No. I mean, if they release Beat Saber on it, then maybe I'll think about it. That is the only game I can play in VR without vomming. So unless they have some sort of anti-vom thing in PSVR 2, it's probably not something I'm going to buy.
That's actually another £50 for that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
of course. The vom tax. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a nice Sony branded sick bag, though. It's wonderful.
Does that hook up as well? Or?
It does, yeah, like a little horse feeding bag that you can just spew into. Well,
that's another USB port, which you're going to need another cradle to.
Of course.
I like the fact that Sony says, "Oh, you have to buy this thing so you don't use up all the USB ports on your PS5." Sony designed the PS5. Why not put some more USB ports in there in the first place? You know you're going to do another VR headset. Like, this isn't something that you dreamt up in the last 6 months.
Us.
I mean, for me personally, I did think Horizon Call of the Mountain was a compelling game. I think if they bundled it in, maybe. But I guess the problem is that it is out my price range. I think it's just too expensive for me to purchase and justify it. I don't think there are enough games either currently to justify any purchase. I think it's a bummer that it doesn't have backwards compatibility with the original PSVR. I get it. I think there are technical limitations, which means they couldn't do it. Um, but I think if they try to port them over or something, if they just beefed up the lineup a little bit, maybe cut the price a bit, it might be more of a sell. But at the current price with the current games, it just isn't enough there for me, I think.
I wonder how extensive these games are as well. You know, it's Call of the Mountain, for instance. It's obviously not a full-sized Horizon game.
I think it's about 7 to 8 hours long, I think.
Yeah, and how many of these games are similar to that? In which case, you know, these are essentially kind of fairly casual experiences, a lot of them, but you need a very expensive bit of tech to be able to play them. So it's that weird thing of, well, it's sort of casual games with a high price point that I think a lot of casual gamers won't want to pay for.
Is it fair to say as well, Ian, looking at the games that Sony announced yesterday, that the majority of them are already available or will be also available elsewhere?
A fair few of them are, for definite. The only one there that I think has been confirmed as a launch title alongside Horizon is Cities VR, which is definitely not going to appeal to everyone. I'm sure it's a lovely game, but
it's a weird one to have in VR now.
Yeah, it's reviewed pretty well on the Quest and stuff, but city building is a genre that makes me go to sleep very quickly, so it's not one I've tried. A lot of them, Cosmonius High is a Quest game that I've played. Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue is a kind of VR spin-off. The only one that I'm really kind of excited for there is the Dark Picture Switchback VR, which is kind of like a sequel to Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which was it was an incredible launch game. I really hope Switchback is a launch game for PSVR2, because Rush of Blood was such a good launch game, like scary, easy to play, exciting. It was one that anytime I had someone around the house, I'd be like, hey, check this out. This is what VR's like. It's amazing. So I kind of like the look of that one as well.
I feel like that's a lot of what VR is, though. Like, people will spend loads of money on this bit of tech and they get their mates over and be like, oh my God, look how great this is, because you're trying to justify how much you've spent on it. And then people play it for 5 minutes and go, oh yeah, that's fun. Yeah. But it's not something you can just sit and play for hours and hours.
I think that's what makes the Quest 2 so compelling compared to this, is that it's quite cheap. And I know that we will have our criticisms of Facebook, and they don't seem to be that invested into making gaming on VR like something a great experience. But I think given the relatively low price tag compared to other VR headsets, it does seem like a good entry point, whereas this just isn't, which is a big problem if Sony is planning to expand the VR market with more consumers.
It's interesting. I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg. I think it was doing an interview with The Verge recently, it was a really good interview. And as you know, robotic as it often seems Mark Zuckerberg is, he talked quite frankly about how VR, you know, and the metaverse is a long-term bet, and right now they are a long way from reaching that long-term bet, and everything still seems very early. And he expected the blowback that he's had from changing Facebook's name to Meta, and people being like, you know, what on earth is he doing? Rightly or wrongly, like, his vision is that this thing is coming, and AR or VR or a mix will be how a lot of people interact with technology in the future. But we are still a long way from that. And these headsets, the Meta Quest especially, are essentially still prototypes, and every iteration that it releases, it will be improved, but there is this virtuous cycle of product adoption breeds product evolution, and you need users to buy into the system so that the technology evolves, gets better, and more people come into the system, and then so on and so forth. My issue with PlayStation VR2 is that at that price point, I think that Sony has fluffed its kind of role in this ecosystem as a really easy access entry. You don't need a high-end PC. you just have a PlayStation 5, which a growing number of people now have, as expensive as they are. That is a mass market device. When I look at this at £530, that is beyond so many people. And I just think, Sony, you go for the high end, you sell 1 million units, but where does that leave you? Like, does that leave you with a successful consumer product that grows VR in general? Who are you aiming this at?
I mean, I think it's interesting, and I don't think Sony would tell us, but it'd be interesting to know whether Sony's making a profit or they are losing money with every unit they're selling. Because the hardware is high end, it's pretty state of the art, so I imagine it's very expensive for them to produce. And whether or not they're selling it at a loss as it is. If they are, I can understand from their perspective cutting the price even more and selling it at an even greater loss, and they might not make their money back in terms of games because they're on a lot there. It's a difficult sell.
That's another criticism that I have. If Sony, if they're like, look, we just have to price it at this because, that technology prices are going up, as we know, because Sony just put up the PS5 by 30 quid. But at least justify it over another VR platform with the content that you have. PlayStation franchises, we've just got Horizon Call of the Mountain. Like, none of the others are announced at the moment. Where are the Sony exclusives? Where's the third-party support that you can't get on another platform? I don't know. If you're just left with VR ports, then what's the difference? And if the price is relatively similar...
Yeah, they desperately need another Astrobot rescue mission because that is a fantastic Sony exclusive to the PSVR 1. And they've been very tight-lipped about a lot of things that could help sell the system, like GT7. Where's like the GT7 VR support? So many people are clamoring for that, and that's not even been hinted at. Is it coming? Is it not? Everyone wants it to come, but who knows?
There isn't a killer game, is there? That's the issue. There just isn't a single game that be like, yeah, well, it's quite expensive, but I got to experience this game. This is what VR is all about, which is the difficult thing.
No, there isn't.
Do you think that they're holding back? Like, do they have Half-Life Alyx in their back pocket, but they're waiting for the first lot of pre-orders?
I hope to God that they have Half-Life Alyx on that system, because that game is phenomenal. More people need to play it, and it would be stupid not to have it on there. In terms of like games I've already played on the PSVR 2, Horizon is a good kind of entry level game and a good showcase of the tech, but I don't think it's naturally a system seller. I've played Resident Evil Village on there, which is like brilliant in VR. But you can play mods of that in VR if you have a PC headset. I played The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2, which is a really cool, chunky, lengthy, open world kind of survival game, which I love. But that is going to be available on other headsets as well. And also the other game I played was Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, which is just an updated version of a Quest thing. So again, the stuff I have played and the stuff that has been announced is, a lot of it is stuff we've seen and done before rather than system selling exclusives. I
mean, we were discussing this yesterday, and I think if they introduce compatibility with PC, I think they'd sell a lot more units because it's still a high-end headset, and I think it's a really good headset to purchase. Whether Sony would actually do that, I have my doubts. I think it's one of the reasons why we don't have Half-Life Alyx is that Valve may have set the condition that, yeah, we'll give you the game, but you got to make the headset compatible with PC. And I think for Sony, that's just not something that they're going to do right now. I think keeping it within the Sony ecosystem is something that they want to do.
Yeah, that sounds likely.
I think that's unlikely, just unless they are making money on each headset sold, like a significant return. Unless there's some way of, and we know that they are rolling out PC integration into PlayStation profiles to some degree, and unless they see it as like, oh, here is an entry for PC players who don't have a PS5 to join the PS5 ecosystem. But again, it just feels like it's going to be such a niche device that I don't know if that's an attraction there anyway.
Can we assume that Resident Evil Village will be a launch title? Because I don't know if that's listed or not. I mean, at least that is a known franchise and it's a known game because it's already out elsewhere.
It's not listed, but I would be surprised if it didn't like get released as a free update for the base game at some point close to, if not on launch. I'd also like it if they did the same for Resident Evil 7, like update that at the same time.
That was really popular.
Yeah, one of the best PSVR games I've ever played. So good. So more people need to try that out as well. But yeah, I think it's literally just 2 games so far that have been confirmed as launch titles. We'll see more as we get closer, but 2 games are not going to convince people to pre-order considering that price.
I imagine down the line that more and more developers will make VR editions of their games. It's just a matter of time and development cost and everything. And maybe Sony needs to give them an incentive to do that.
Yeah, a good example, No Man's Sky has said they're coming out and doing a PSVR2 version of their game. I would be very surprised if a lot of other big PSVR games didn't get PSVR2 ports down the line from their developers rather than Sony. So, like, things like Moss or Job Simulator games, stuff like that. It would be silly for them not to bring previous games to the new headset. It's just a matter of time, I think, for the developers.
Yeah, I wonder if Sony set some of these specs a little while back, over a year ago, and these things have just ended up costing a bit more than they initially expected. I can't think that they ever wanted to come out and trumpet £530 as a good price. And the way that it's just the pricing is structured or announced in that blog post just annoyed me as well. Like, £530 and you can't play anything. That's not really the price of the system, then, is it? It's and I wonder if they had wanted to hit a lower price point and they've sort of preemptively put the price up because they know
potentially
possible now.
Like I said, though, it is a very, very high tech piece of kit. It's better than a Quest 2. It's better than a Pico 4. It's better than my Rift S. It is really. It's top quality kit for a casual gaming audience. PSVR 1 has always been like casual VR. You can sit there and play it with a DualShock on the comfort of your own sofa. If you're playing PC or Quest, you might want to do some more big, like, room scale experiences. And I think Quest 2 is going to aim to be a bit more casual like that. It's just a shame that the price also isn't aimed at the casual market because, it's at the moment it's still a rich man's game, PSVR 2.
This is it, and this is what I wanted PlayStation to come in and try and disrupt and change. And I think the first PlayStation VR headset did do that to some degree, and so there has been an element of surprise with this pricing because Sony it won't do that in the same way, and it certainly won't do that in a way that some people had hoped.
So I think what happened is that Sony took to heart the criticisms of the original VR headset, which was that compared to like PC equivalents, it was a bit crap, and you didn't just get the same experience. And so they were like, right, so for our successor, we're going to have high-end tech. We're going to be as good, if not better, than PC headsets, and which is what they produced. Except the problem is, it's also very expensive, and for a console audience, they're not used to those sort of prices.
I do feel with Sony overall, it feels like they are very much heading towards this luxury market or luxury item market. The console itself has gone up in price. This is very expensive. They've releasing the Elite controller, whatever it's called. I think that's the Xbox one. Whatever the new DualSense one is, that's also incredibly expensive. PlayStation Plus is incredibly expensive for the top level. It just feels like they are really trying to push PlayStation as a luxury item that they know is desirable, and they know that for the console at least people will pay that premium.
Now that you mention it, I think it's a Sony-wide issue. It's not just PlayStation. I'm thinking about Sony televisions compared to like competitors from like Samsung, etc. Sony's TVs are very expensive. Same goes for their audio equipment, their phones. They've slowly been creeping up in price, and I think Sony is trying to go for that sort of Apple price tag of like very high end.
Which it just makes me think of McDonald's bringing out a caviar range and saying, well, it's only a tenner per spoon. That's really good compared to what you'd pay at a French restaurant. And people would just be like, yeah, but I like a Happy Meal. What are you doing?
That's
Happy Meal gets a toy
fair.
with it.
Exactly.
Wow, that is a burn. That, jeez. Happy Meal gets a toy with it. Oh, poor PSVR 2.
Yeah, look forward to that demo disc. Not coming. I'd love to ask you all what you think Sony could do now, apart from cutting the price, which is not going to happen, to improve the offering. Is it a demo disc? Is it a franchise, an exclusive?
If they could bring out a PSVR 2 exclusive state of play with like just a load of game announcements, not just release dates for games we already know about, but surprise announcements, first party games, things like that. Just make a big show of it. Sony's done these prices, they've shown us the box, but they haven't shown us, what we're going to be able to do with it. And if they can just give us a showcase that'll get us excited, show us that there is stuff, or show the consumers that there is, gonna be games for it, and there is gonna be a reason that maybe you want to start saving up for one. That is going to improve public opinion a bit, because at the moment, like you all have said, there are thin pickings for what you can actually play on this like very expensive piece of kit at the moment.
I think with that as well, it's a case of longevity. It's a case of just give us that state of play, and here are games that might be coming out in a year's time or 2 years' time, but at least you know that we're going to be supporting this for a long time, because Sony have a history of coming up with these things like handhelds and then not supporting them for very long. And I think people are going to be worried that, hey, I'm going to invest over, potentially over $1,000 in all of this. And then in a year's time, there's nothing new to play on it because you didn't announce anything. So I think it's a sense of, I want stuff at launch, but I also want stuff in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time.
The PSVR 1 was pretty well supported up until this last year, when they just, Sony just completely forgot about it, as did other developers. I presume most of the other VR developers are working on PSVR 2 stuff. But you're right. It would be nice to know that it's been future-proofed, and it's gonna keep getting value for our money if we do get one.
I think as well, give us an exclusive from a known Sony franchise. Like Horizon is decent, but is sort of very recent. Give us a classic.
I was going to make that point. I think if they just one of their exclusive IPs, whether that's a Naughty Dog game or something from Santa Monica, give us a VR game from one of those top-notch studios. High-end, story-driven, whatever you need. I think that would sell units. If it's a compelling enough game to this, of the same quality as Half-Life Alyx, which is a phenomenal game. If Sony has something like that, I think that would improve the selling point for the thing, because currently I just don't think it's there.
Yes, let us know what you think. If there is, maybe you're sold on it, but if not, if there's anything that Sony can do to tempt you, a exclusive Nathan Drake simulator. I don't know. I just feel like Sony's got all of these amazing franchises, and then just to say, well, we're doing this Horizon game, but then also here's a load of ports and things that you can get elsewhere. Please give us 500 quid.
I'm crossing my fingers very hard that Sony is still keeping some stuff under its belt, to whip out a bit closer to Christmas maybe. But just looking at the list of games they announced the other day, they're all a bit meh, to be honest. Light Brigade looks okay. It's a PSVR and PSVR 2 cross-buy title, actually. That's the first of those that has ever been announced. Ooh. Exciting.
This is it. Like, if you are into VR, you will have a headset already, or you won't. Like, if you're not into VR, then... the thing is, I don't think that there's anything that the PSVR 2 does, and especially with that price, encourage someone who's not already thinking about VR to invest. And that's something that I wanted from the PSVR 2. If you're into VR already, great. Like, you'll probably get the VR 2 because you're passionate about that technology and seeing it evolve. But for people who are on the fence, what is convincing the fence sitters right now? Are they going to drop 500-600 quid for a Horizon game? No. Like, and the rest of it you can just play elsewhere. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the trouble is that all their first party studios are busy doing either they're working on a new game or a remake or whatever. I mean, Naughty Dog's doing that multiplayer game they've been working on for ages. I think they're all just really busy and they just didn't have the resources to get something out for the release of PSVR 2.
It always feels a bit like a distraction because Sony knows that its big blockbusters sell consoles but are not the only thing that it has to focus on, which is why it's announced 10 live service games to come out over the next few years. And, you know, those I'm sure are going to make money. The Last of Us live game, when that launches, is going to be a massive hit, I'm sure. Like, if you're Jim Ryan and you're looking at like development budget and where to put it, with such a niche device at that price, you know, do you commit a third of Naughty Dog to make a Nathan Drake simulator, or do you say no, let's just remake The Last of Us Part 2 again and resell that at $70?
I mean, one's easy money and the other isn't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, like your PS5 games you're selling to, what is it now, like 25 million people. PSVR 2 games you're selling to, you know, we'll have to see. But have we had sales numbers up to date for the original PSVR?
Probably, but I don't know them.
It's like single-digit millions, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm presuming there's going to. I wouldn't be surprised if like it's super hard to get a PSVR 2 at launch. Though they'll have that scarcity, whether it's manufactured scarcity or not. I feel like it's going to be sold out. No matter what the price, I reckon it's going to be sold out the instant you can pre-order, and then there'll be scalpers doing it.
I kind of doubt they're going to make that many units anyway, to be honest.
They might be playing on the safe side, you're right.
Well, they might not need to at that price. Right, we should wrap up there before I get catty.
I still love you, PSVR 2.
Thank you so much, Ian, for joining us. I know we are not
me.
VR players, and you are, and it's been really, really great to have your input and
it's
suggestions.
been actually really good to hear input from people who aren't mad on VR and don't just want to buy it because it's a shiny new headset. You know, hearing concerns from, you know, people who aren't the target audience is good to know, actually. So yeah, thanks for inviting me along.
I want to say I genuinely think like the future of how we interact with technology will evolve and incorporate elements of what we now think of as VR and AR, but it's just not there yet. And I want to be on the Star Trek holodeck, and I want to be, you know, more immersed in games than I am right now, just staring at my TV. So I want to see this evolve, and I think that's why, you know, this is especially frustrating to me because I can't see that market growing with PSVR 2 in a way that I think that I hoped it might. So yeah, I don't hate VR. Ian, promise.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. Thanks to you all, and if you've made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Ian, where can people find you on the Twitters?
On the Twitters, it's at Ian Higton, and don't go there. Go to youtube.com/Eurogamer for all your PlayStation VR2 and VR needs, and also other stuff as well. It's good on there. It's nice.
Thank you. Ed, where can people find you on Twitter and or YouTube?
I'm not on YouTube, but on Twitter it's at ed_knights.
Awesome. Ishraq, how about you?
And it's at ISHRXP_.
And I'm at Tom Phillips EG. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.